Hi, this is Delaney Bramlett with John Broughton on Retrospectives on 3SER Casey Radio.
Now, you grew up in Mississippi?
Yes, sir, I did.
How great was your exposure to music there growing up, and what prompted you to eventually make the decision to make it a career option for you?
Well, I grew up listening to what I call country blues, like Robert Johnson and those kind of things, and I started playing guitar in church, and I just love music, and I love I loved all kind of music, like country music, but the blues was more on what I liked, and I love the classics. I don't know. I just when I started playing guitar in church, I just started learning more from people that knew more than I did. So I was trying to actually sit there and take lessons. Actually, what I was doing. I don't know. It's just I just love music. I started making up little songs before I even owned the guitar. I'd use a little stick of wood and play like I was playing a guitar. And I started actually writing songs when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And then finally, Santa Claus brought me a guitar at the age of 7. So now I started there.
Obviously, moving to California was a great turning point in your life. Who were some of your first musical contacts there?
When I first came here, I didn't have any. And then I just gradually started meeting certain people and running across certain people that I had liked a lot, and some of them were in the country field, and I was a bass player with a band. I wasn't a band leader when I first started out here. I played bass in a band and just as a side man for a long time. And actually, Jack Good from England saw me playing, and he had a lot to do with starting the Beatles out in Europe, and he had some show there. I don't recall the name of it, but anyway, he had a show that's getting ready to start called Shindig, and he asked me if I would like to be in the show because he liked what he heard or something at the nightclub I was in. It was called a Palomino Club, and so I immediately quit my job and started doing that show. It ran for like 3 years. And so that's kind of basically how I got started. I started meeting people when I first got here, like James Burton and Glenn Hardin, people like that. And then I started meeting other bands and big stars, and that really fascinated me, And I got a chance to play with them and write for them, and it's kind of grew like that.
Remember the first recording session you played on?
I think the first recording session I played on was a Willie Nelson session. I played rhythm guitar for Willie Nelson. I didn't even get paid for it. Maybe I wasn't good enough. I don't know. But I believe that was one of the first, and then this thing went on down the line, and everybody kept saying I had a great hand for rhythm. So a lot of people hired me for rhythm a long time before they knew I could play lead. So that was fine with me as long as I could play,
At what point do you think your songwriting abilities began to develop and mature?
Well, you mean with inequality whatsoever?
Yeah.
Well, I like to think that the first song I wrote when I got to California that was the first and only single that Clint Eastwood ever had. He was doing I was just a kid. I mean, I was just a baby out here, and I had to get a phony ID to play in these clubs. So I met a guy named Sheb Woolley who was on a TV series called Rawhide. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, they're going to make a big star out of this guy, Clint Eastwood. And he said, they want to put a big campaign behind him. Would you write him a song? He said, I'll get it to him. So I did, and it's a song called Searching for Somewhere. And so it's a collector's item now, because Clint's not a good singer, But he recorded that, and they said, who is Clint Eastwood searching for? One of those big campaigns they did in those years, And so that was my first little success. And then I just started writing and submitting songs that are a little bit different than it is today. You have to know somebody and sit down with them to play them a song these days because they won't take unsolicited songs. So But in those days, you could just, take a guitar over to their house and they'd say, okay, I like that. And they would record it. So that's kind of where it started anyway.
Sure. Talk about some of the people you've been associated with over the years. You co-wrote many songs with Eric Clapton on his solo debut.
Yeah.
But your name wasn't on the credits initially.
Well, what happened was I was signed with a publishing company called Metric Music, and my advisors had told me at the time, what I better do is, they said, you better put them in Bunny's name. So that we were in court, but it wasn't resolved, and so that's a terrible mistake. You can never get it changed. And it's been a mistake all my life. But I mean, most people in the business know that I wrote the songs. But if I was to get run over by a garbage truck tomorrow, then most people in history they'll say, "Well, he didn't write those." But no, Eric and I wrote that whole thing, and he asked me to produce him. And how it came about was actually George Harrison saw us first, and he said to Eric, "You should hear this band. You're getting ready to do a tour with Blind Faith. You remember that group?"
Yeah. And
he said, "You should hear this band." So they came out to a little club we were playing, and George had brought him out. So he said, "Well, would you do an opening act for the Blind Faith thing?" So we said, "Yeah, of course we would." And we did that. And about halfway during that tour, Eric was on stage with us all the time. And they say that I broke up the band, but I really didn't. They really didn't get along quite well. That group didn't. So Eric just ended up saying, "Can I be in your band?" And I said, "Well, yeah." So that's how that all started. And then George said when we did the tour in Europe, George said, "Well, can I be in the band too?" And I said, "Well, sure." And actually it was 4 guitar, me, Dave Mason,
yep,
and Eric, and then George said, "Will you pick me up at my house in the morning?" And we said, "Yeah." And then so there was 4 guitar players on the stage at all times. But there's such quality players that nobody got anybody's way, so it turned out to be a great night.
They must have been some wonderful shows, yeah. Now, I believe you also had a hand in the creation of George's My Sweet Lord.
Yeah, well, how that happened was that was in the dressing room while we were on that tour. I think we were in Croydon at the time. I'm not positive. One of the little towns there, and we're in the dressing room, and George just asked me. He said, "I really like the way you write gospel songs." He said, "How do you write a gospel song?" And I said, "Well, I said, have you ever read the Bible?" And he said, he was into another thing at the time. And he said, "Well," I said, "Well, what I do is I get things out of there and get a good feeling." And I gave him a for instance. I started playing the chord changes to a song called, do-lang, do-lang, do-lang. He's so fine.
Yep.
I just kind of, I didn't mean him for, I thought surely he must have known that song. I didn't mean for him to use that. I said, he just wanted me to give him a for instance. So I said, and something like this, so I told Bunny and Rita Coolidge, I said, when I tell you to, you guys sing hallelujah, you know what I mean? Oh, my Lord. And that's how it came about. And the next thing I knew, I heard it on the radio, and I said, oh, boy, he cut my song. But he shouldn't have used that melody.
Landed him all sorts of hot water, didn't it?
Oh, boy, it did. And, of course, he got a little upset with me because his attorney called me and asked me if I would come to every country in the world sued him and won, and they wanted me to go to court and get up and say that I did that. And I said, well, I don't have the money to lose these court cases, And I said, I really would not like to go to court. And so George got a little upset about that.
Now, tell us about your association with Duane Allman. You must have some wonderful memories of him.
Yes, I do. Well, he actually, I met him through Jerry Wexler. I was doing an album, and I can't remember which one it was at the time. And I said to Jerry, I want to find somebody that plays slide like I do, but even better. And I said, and we had discussed a few other slide players, and we went around. He said, well, have you ever met Duane? I said, no, I know who he is, though. He said, I think you and him will just get along just tremendously. And he said, well, I'm going to give him a call. And he called him, and Duane called me, and he flew out to my house. boy, and it turned out to be just, better than I thought it would ever be. And then me and Duane and King Curtis, I started producing King Curtis. We just got to wherever I played, they were on stage with me at all times. And Duane would even leave the tour with the Allman Brothers and show up at my tour. As a matter of fact, the record company sued me about 13 times for soliciting, and he would always say, no, he didn't solicit me. I showed up on my own, so I got away with that one too. But him and King Curtis had a room in my house, and I had one at their house. So whenever I was in New York, I stayed with Curtis, and I was in Georgia, I would stay with Duane, and it just got to be the best friend I ever had. Duane did, and as a matter of fact, it's funny you asked that because his daughter lives in Berkeley now, up in Northern California.
Oh, yeah.
And she told a friend of mine that, she said, I've never met Delaney. She said, I know I did when I was a baby, but I don't remember him. And I know that he was my dad's best friend. Would you ask him to call me? Because I don't know anybody that was his best friend to talk to tell me something about my daddy. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to call her today.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And I hadn't talked... I wouldn't know her if she walked up to the door, because I saw her when she was just a kid. So, but yeah, her dad and Duane were just, we were inseparable for a lot of years, and he taught me a lot. Everybody I worked with taught me. I try to steal from everybody a little bit. Well, I call it borry.
Yeah.
I borrow that look from you.
You've collaborated as a songwriter with so many people over the years. Are you more comfortable in that collaborative situation rather than writing alone?
Well, I used to much prefer to ride along, but anymore I'm more comfortable collaborating. I like to get somebody else's side of it too,
Yep.
And because I might have a line that I think is almost there, and I think, well, I don't know, and they say, well, how about this? And bam, just there it is. And I enjoy writing on the people now more than I do. I still write a lot alone, but I really enjoy it more when somebody's sitting here with me.
Now, before we go on and talk about the new record, just a couple of bits of trivia which I found on your website which caught my eye. Your first ever gig was a local high school gig, and there was a rather interesting name on the bill, I believe.
You mean Elvis?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, how that happened was I had this little old, it was either 3 or 4 piece band. I think, seems as I recall, it's 3 piece. My brother played drums, and I guess it was 4 piece. Well, anyway, we went to a school called Randolph High, and it's down in the boondocks. It had 2 little stores. Both of them sold gas and shoes, flour, anything else you want. But it was just if you bat your eye, you couldn't see the town. It wasn't no town. But we had a humongous school. It went all the way from the primary all the way to the 12th grade. So we had a big auditorium, and a lot of people played there. So they booked Elvis there, and then he did this tour, and he was not at the time he was not the headliner. It was a guy named Hank Snow, and but before the tour was over, he was the headliner, because he just captured the people. And I was opening act for Elvis, and he was second, and then Hank Snow was the closing act. But I only did about I can't remember now, a couple of weeks with it, and of course I had to go back to school. And that was his first big tour, and I was on it. And he, he was born in Tupelo, which was like 10 miles from where I was born. Which is, well, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't even in Randolph, it was Route 3. We didn't. It's one of those houses. There's an old album called Home. That was really our house. It was a log house, and
yeah.
we didn't have electric lights. We didn't have running water. We had nothing. And everybody says, "You're from Tupelo, right?" It's, well, that's the biggest one around. But no, I'm from Route 3.
I believe you also made an appearance on the instrumental hit Tequila.
Yeah, I played that rhythm guitar. You'll hear a couple of mistakes in there, and that's me. That was not going to be the single. It was the flip side of that was called Train to Nowhere. And that's when they pushed and pushed and pushed, and some radio station back in Cincinnati or somewhere called them up and said, we played the B-side, Tequila. Tequila was what we called our little opening song and closing song for each set. and we just played just a little bit up and stop, you know.
It's intro music.
We'll be back in a few minutes, folks, that kind of thing. And so they said, what are we going to do with the B-side? And so Danny, who was Danny Flores, Chuck Rio, you'll see, that's the name he used, he said, why don't we do our little theme song, you know? So we did it, and we just take one. We worked 2 weeks on Train to Nowhere. And so when they called up and said, I think you're pushing the wrong side, you ought to flip it. And it's still, to this day, the all-time biggest instrumental ever recorded. I can't take credit for that. That was Chuck Rio or Danny. Danny Flores is his real name. He came up with the song.
Now let's talk about the new record. When you began planning this album, did you have a specific sound in mind that you were looking for there?
Well, one thing I had in mind was I wanted to do something that it sounded like. I did an old thing years ago called Motel Shot, and it was just everything off the top of my head. And I told everybody, I said, just follow me, and we're going to take one, and that's it. I wanted something to sound raw, but yet not sloppy. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to do it here at the house because everybody gets a good feeling here, and all the drummers say it's the best sound they ever had on their drums, and you know, it's like we can take a break whenever we want to and walk out on the front porch or go for a horseback ride if we want to. And it just gets a good feeling, and I just said, that's just what I want. And I said, I'm going to just do a Duke's mixture of songs here, and we'll just pick them out. You know, I've got like 300 or 500 songs that nobody's heard yet, and I'm going to plan on the next one a little bit more. I think my next album will probably be more on the blues side, but this one I wanted to kind of just do what comes naturally. If I write a song today, we'd go in and record it.
Yeah.
Write one tomorrow, we'd go and record it. And that's kind of the way it turned out, and I was really happy with it.
You definitely achieved your purpose there. The first time I heard it, the first album that came to mind was Motel Shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the feeling, the atmosphere feeling that I wanted to capture, and I think we did.
Oh, for sure. Now, what period of time did the songs cover?
I'm sorry?
The period of time that the songs cover.
Well, there's one song on there that's an old song that I did years before, and it's coming off, by the way. The record company decided to take off Every Day's a Holiday. They decided to take that off, and they're going to use another song called Turn It Around. Mm-hmm. But because all these songs were done in this past year, you know, as I was doing this, or past 6 months or whatever. And that Every Day's a Holiday I wrote that, oh, Lord, I guess probably 15 years ago. And I agreed with it. I didn't care. I mean, I got so many songs I didn't care. He said, it just sounds like that's not in the same atmosphere that you had the rest of them in. Could we change it? And I said, well, sure, go ahead. So that decision was made day before yesterday. So I don't know if you have a CD of the stuff.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
You do? Okay, well, that second song will be, I guess it will be yanked. Matter of fact, when it came, when I got my first batch of CDs, they forgot to put the title and my name on it. So if it sells good, it might be a collector's item. I don't know.
Actually, I've got one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the second song won't be on it at the final release, which is going to be right away. It'll be a song called "Turn It Around," and I know you don't have that copy, but I'll see that you get one with the final deal.
In a way, the album seems like a bit of a family affair. I noticed the Bramlett name appears a few times in the credits. Who's involved there?
Well, my wife and I, you'll hear a choir on a few things in there, and there's a gospel song with the choir. Hmm? But that's nobody but just me and my wife. We just overdubbed it about 15 times. And it's just me and her. And my mom's singing on it. Me and my wife and I wrote, I guess, 2 or 3 together in there. I'm not sure. And the rest of it, I guess I wrote by myself. Or, well, there might be some co-writers on a couple. I don't have one right in front of me to tell you. I think I co-wrote Brown Paper Bag and the gospel song. Oh, I know it was a guy named Gary Nicholson and somebody. I don't have it in front of me. So, but some of those things that my wife wrote with me, and she's playing whatever sax you hear on there. She's playing the saxophone and the flute, and I'm doing most of the guitar work. There's a couple of other people pops in on certain songs just here and there. But we just kept it down to a family deal here.
Now, you handle the production yourselves as well. Do you find it easier to produce yourself than to produce other artists?
No, I don't. No, I'm too critical. I enjoy producing other artists more than I do myself. But in this case, the way I want it to be, I didn't want anybody co-producing this one because I wanted it to have that homespun thing, and I was afraid that an outside producer wouldn't understand that. And so I just insisted on doing this on my own. So my wife engineered and I produced, and we just let it go at that, and everything worked out fantastic. And the players I have, they're fantastic players. I mean, God, we come in here and I'll show them the song one time, and I said, let's try to get the first take, because I don't want anything slick, you know. And so there's some of this kind of raw, you know, but I like that. I like that rawness.
As you say, there is a fantastic array of players there. It must be one of the most pleasing aspects of your career to have maintained such wonderful contacts.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've made so many good friends over the years, and the greatest players. I've been so lucky. Every time I turn around, I have these great players wanting to play with me, and I mean that's just godsend. I don't know how it happened, but they're always available. They're always here, and most of them won't even take pay. They'll just say, no, that's too much fun. No, you can't pay me for that. That's too much fun. You give me $5 for gas. Stuff like that. And that's true. I mean, this album just was. I mean, it was most fun I've ever had doing an album.
Are you following up the album with some live work?
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, I got to start getting one of my bass players on the road right now with a guy that did the Phantom of the Opera. I can't think of his name. I mean, this bass player can play anything. He'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to start rehearsing, and they want us to do a little radio tour just in England to you know, like a post thing, and just talk, sing a couple songs, and just go from one radio station to another.
Oh yeah.
And and then I'm hoping I'll come down to Australia. You know what? I can't believe this. It sounds like you're in the same room with me, and you're down under. God. And I'm hoping to do that down there too. But I'm going to rehearse, and if the album makes any moves at all, I want to go out and follow it up with a tour, because I love playing. I go out all the time and sit in with bands out here. I went out last night, as a matter of fact. I stayed out real late. I sit in and play guitar and sing all night. Yeah. And that's just, you know, musicians got to play.
In the blood, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't wait really to go out and do some shows. Yeah.
What's the situation with the release of the album outside the US?
Well, we had a couple. I better not tell you about the labels, because I turned them down because I didn't like their attitude on it and all this stuff. But Zane Records, they have an idea now. They said within the next 2 or 3 days they're going to present it to me with a label here that they think I might like. The ones that I was talking to, they wanted it, but like I said, I didn't like their attitude towards what I was trying to do, like I did with Zane, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. So, and I don't know. I think is Zane Records taking care of Australia?
Heard of them, not a great deal.
I don't know if they. I think he's planning on doing that, but I'm not real positive. His name is Peter Thompson. Do you know him?
No, can't say I do.
Well, I think they'll be taking care of Australia. I believe. I'm not sure, or the website wanted to. But as far as the United States, I turned down the company I was telling you about. Well, I'll just put it this way: Duane Allman was on his label, and I didn't like what happened there, and then my daughter was too, and I didn't like what happened there. So I put that on the back burner for right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it won't happen, but it'll have to, their attitude has had to change quite a bit. So before I'll agree to do that. I'm really happy with what's going on in Europe right now, and I do believe that the distribution will be in Australia from Zane Records, but that's something I'll have to talk to Peter about.
Has your method of songwriting changed much over the years?
Well, I don't think the feeling of it and the pulse of it has, but I think I'm a better lyric writer now, and I think I tell more intimate stories than I used to. But I would still say basically the same. I mean, a songwriter is a songwriter. You write what you feel, and what I write about a lot of times about everyday things or what I would like to be everyday things. Sometimes my wife will say, "You wrote that about me, didn't you?" And I said, "No, I didn't. I wrote about what I thought somebody else might be thinking. So, but I think it's basically, categorically the same as it would have been, years ago. I think so.
There's been many great covers of your songs over the years by other artists. Is there any one that holds a special place for you?
Well, I love Ray Charles' version of Never Ending Song of Love, and Boston Pops cut it, and I love that version. I mean, because that's really thrilled me. And then Nancy Wilson cut a song of mine, and Mel Torme, who I think is one of the great jazz singers of all time, he cut a song of mine, and those kind of people really, really knock me out. To me, it's like an achievement. And then people like George Jones and Laura Everly Brothers, they cut two of my songs. It's the people that I admired all my life. And then when they record something that you sit down and wrote, that's a thrill,
Oh, for sure. Just to wind up, Delaney, what would be your key or secret to survival in the music game for as long as you have?
I think my key was for all the great artists and players that enjoy playing with me. I think that was my whole key. Like I said, I've been blessed so many years with people that they enjoy playing with me. And I can't tell you why. But they said it. They said my music feels good, and that's what they like to play, and it's like a joy for them to go out of the studio, whatever they're doing, and then come over here and all of a sudden they're having fun. And I think that's one of the main keys is the people that I've been surrounded by. In my opinion, I would have to put it there. And of course, I've worked awful hard, and I work very hard at my craft, and I think I'm pretty good at my craft, and it's the only way you're going to get good at it is work your tail off,
Yeah.
But I think the main key is I've been surrounded by some fantastic musicians and singers, and that what can you ask for?
Absolutely. Okay, Delaney, look, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for many years of wonderful music. It's been an absolute treat talking to you this morning.
Well, it's been a treat talking to you, John. You call me anytime you like.
Absolutely.
If you're ever in the States, I got a big old guest house. You're welcome to stay here at my place.
Oh, you'd never get rid of me.
All right. Well, come on over, and I'll just hold you to that.
Fantastic. Thanks, and we hope to see you down here in the near future too.
Well, I plan on coming. I have a friend of mine named Billy Thorpe there that
oh yes,
has been begging me to come down and do. I almost came down to the Blues Festival, but some other matters came up and I couldn't. But I almost came down this year for the Blues Festival. He is a great player. Old Thorpe.
Oh, he's a legend down here.
Yeah, I know he is. And, well, you know what? He was making a mark over here, but you guys offered him so much money he had to come back home. I don't blame him.
No, not at all.
Him and I have written a lot of songs together.
That's terrific.
And we're good friends. We stay in touch all the time.
Oh, great. Well, I hope he finally gets you down here. We'd love to see you. Maybe we'll get you in the studio to knock out a few tunes for us, too.
Great.
That'd be great.
To. I would love to do that.
Thanks, Delaney. All the best.
All the best to you, and give me a call anytime you please.
Will do. You take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.